Joining me now, our special guest tonight to talk more about the Trump team's legal team and what they are doing to fight this voter fraud, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Kimberly, thank you so much for joining Real America. We really appreciate it. How are you today?
Fantastic. A pleasure to be on your program.
So first, let's start off with this weekend. We'll start on a positive note. How about that? And then we'll get to all this election fraud and irregularities. Have you ever seen anything like what we witnessed this weekend in our nation's capital for any, I don't care, president, governor, you name it? I have never seen a crowd like this and support for an elected official in my 45 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly a remarkable scene, and just a sea of patriotic Americans showing their support for the president, because the support for the president was real. I traveled across this country almost 300 days, campaigning for the president across every single state, spoke at all the pre-programs, a lot of them at the rallies. And I'll tell you, he is beloved by so many. So it was no surprise to me that at least, 74 million that we know of, that were counted, people came out to vote for the president, to show their enthusiasm. Incredible. And when you think about it, look at how much dedication everybody had to come out there and show the president, listen, we stand for you. That's what America is about. That's why we're supporting this president. And that's why we're not going to give up, because the president is honoring his promise to those people that supported him to make sure that this is a fair process and an honest election, and maintaining the integrity of the voting system in this country. And that should be a bipartisan issue.
Yeah, it truly should, Kimberly. Thank you so much for bringing that up. All the president is asking for, all his supporters are asking for, all this host and journalist is asking for is a fair election, that every real, true, fairly vote count. And that means they followed the process. They were alive. They signed for it. They were allowed to vote in that state. I mean, there are so many examples of voter fraud, voter irregularities. And let's get to the big one, because we're covering it here at OAN big time, the software. The Dominion software. You're a lawyer. Team Trump's been talking about it all weekend long. I heard one of the attorneys say she's going to release the Kraken come this week. I got to assume that's more information about Dominion. We've been looking into it, and it appears there's a direct connection with some guy that worked for them and possibly switching votes. I mean, you can tamper with this software. It was proven 20 years ago. There's video out of a guy saying, yeah, pretty easy to mess with voter software.
It's really outrageous. And I'm going to tell you something. Everyone should want to shine like a bright light on this, to have the transparency, expose what's going on here. We want to make sure that not just this election, but elections going forward in this country maintain integrity, that every valid legal vote is counted and every invalid, illegal vote is tossed out. How is that a difficult concept to come to grips with? And if there is problems, like it's been demonstrated, at least a prima facie case has been made here as it relates to Dominion and the software, why wouldn't you want to get to the bottom of it? The other side, they're always cheering for some phony, fraudulent investigation. Well, now that there's actually a serious issue as it relates to the United States presidential election, they should want to make sure that we can determine if there was fraud, what went on, what transpired, and actually the true count of how many votes President Trump got and how many votes Vice President Biden got. That is all it is. That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. I mean, how would you even want, in any shape or form, an election based on fraud? We would allow someone to go into the White House and assume the Oval Office, one of the most powerful, consequential positions in the world, that actually didn't receive the votes? It makes no sense to me. And I'm just shocked and appalled by the fact that people just want to rush it in, have him go and take the presidency, not caring at all whether or not he actually won. So how is it to the people that voted for President Trump to be disenfranchised and say that votes came in from people who are not living, that it was manufactured, or it came from a machine, or a glitch in software, et cetera, purposeful or not? Why wouldn't you want to get to the bottom of that? It makes no sense to me, because unless you have something to hide, that's why they didn't want people, poll watchers, to get too close. That's why they said, oh, water main break, in Georgia, nothing to see here, folks, go home. And then they started counting again. I mean, it's just outrageous. It's outrageous. And so we stand up for the truth here.
And Kimberly, you have hundreds of regular, average, everyday American citizens who've signed affidavits stating to what you're discussing they've seen. We had one of the whistleblowers from Wayne County near Detroit, Michigan on the show last week saying, I witnessed people take 50 ballots that she saw were for Biden and run them through the machine 7 or 8 times. So they just turned
That's
50
insane.
into 400. And she said she saw that several times by several different people. That's in one counting place in Michigan. If you do it in the right counties, in the right battleground states, what happens?
Well, then you produce a result like this, where there's very close margins, suspiciously. I mean, my God, Joe Biden would get 12 people to show up at a mega rally for him, okay? And the rest of the time, he was the weekend at Bernie's, like in the basement hiding. Now he wants to hide the votes. I mean, this is just outrageous. And by the way, to circle back about the amazing, MAGA rally and show of support for the president in D.C., I am so appalled that the Democrats and the liberals have not called out the abhorrent violence committed against people peacefully there to show their patriotism for the country, which is their constitutional right to do so. And did you notice when they were calling it, for President-elect, Joe Biden, did you see any of the Trump supporters going out, rioting, looting, burning down buildings or businesses or doing any of this?
No,
so
that's not what conservatives do.
Stand for? Right. This is the problem here. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, people are seeing this. They're getting the word out there, and programs like yourselves and networks like yourself that are actually covering the truth and showing the American people what's going on in this country and exposing the fraud. So it's very important to do so in this, in this market, in this system, and make sure that we have the transparency we need as it relates to this presidential election.
Yeah, we're trying our best, Kimberly, here at OAN and the Real America Show to do what we can to keep that voice out there because, and that was going to be my next question, you kind of answered it for me. How appalling was it that the media is not covering it on the mainstream side? And if they are, they're then trying to flip it and say it was Proud Boys or Trump supporters that started agitating the crowd. There's tons of videos out there.
Facts. Their own narrative to justify the ends to which they will go to any length to achieve one result, which was putting Joe Biden in office, turning this country to complete leftist, socialist, communist ideals. And one man is standing up for Americans, and that's President Trump. And it is his constitutional right to do so and to demand that this election be fair and that we actually get to the results that are real and votes that were cast by Americans. I don't think it's fair to anybody that legally cast a vote to have it diluted by, 10 fraudulent votes coming in. It's outrageous.
Isn't it crazy to see that in just a short period, and it is a short period, 20 years, we didn't see the left go crazy back when it was Gore Bush and we waited almost 40 days to figure out who the president-elect was. Everybody, for the most part, remained calm on both sides. We waited.
Yeah.
Now nobody wants to wait. They're wrapping me up. I hate this. Yeah, we could spend more time together, you and I, I'm sure.
I tell Americans, be patient, and the truth will reveal itself.
Yes, and I got to give the president kudos, because I'll tell you what, if anything, you look back on his presidency, and hopefully it's for 4 more years, but what he has shown Americans in 4 years is what we knew, but nobody wanted to talk about at the dinner table, that our government has so many different corrupt agencies and people within it. That's why we call it the swamp, and he has been exposing it. This is another example right here. We know there's been election fraud dating back to Nixon with the big scandal over thousands of votes in Chicago back in the, 60s. So we know what happens, and this president is bringing it to light. So hopefully in the future, no other president has to go through what he did, from the Russian hoax to this rigged election. Kimberly Guilfoyle, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I wish we had another 10, 20 minutes to chat. Yeah. Tell John Jr. hi for us. Ask POTUS if we can get a tweet out on Real America. We'd appreciate it.
All right, there you go.
You take care and be safe.
Thank you. You too.
Yep. Coming up on Real America, it appears that even some Democrats haven't trusted Dominion software in the past. That's right. Straight ahead, we'll show you which ones have actually spoken up about it. Don't go away.